lesson, we're going to analyze Guy de Maupassant's short story, The Necklace. Our focus will be on characterization, symbolism, irony, motif, and then tying these four, choosing one to develop our central idea. So if you have read The Necklace, which this worksheet and the short story will be linked in the video description for you to use. So our first is, what does Mathilde Lois's behavior throughout the story reveal about her character? Think about specific moments Maupassant chooses to show us. Longing as she sits at dinner, her reaction when she sees an invitation, her obsession with finding the perfect dress, and her silence at the end. Maupassant never directly tells us who Mathilde is. He shows us what specific actions, thoughts, or moments best reveal her character, and what do they suggest about how Mathilde sees herself versus how the world sees her. Well, she's certainly an interesting character. We learn that after her marriage to a clerk, so a clerk would be like a government job, she has her tastes were simple because she had never been able to afford any other, but she was unhappy as though she had married beneath her. So she married someone a bit above her, but she is very dissatisfied with her life. She feels as though she was born for every delicacy and luxury, and she's suffering from the poorness of her house, even though she does have a housekeeper, but she still longs for all these other things. And we also have her husband. So Guy de Maupassant he lived in the 1800s. He died in the late 1800s. So technically, women during this time did not have many rights, and a lot of stories about women might be about how their husband was unfair to them. But in this story, Mathilde's husband is very generous and caring towards her. And you could say he's a foil character opposite, because he is appreciative of things while she is not. And he is always trying to do nice things for her. So when he gets this invitation to go to this ball, you could characterize her as not being appreciative. And you could also say she is somewhat selfish, because here she's going to take her husband's $400 that he was saving to get something for himself, and she's going to use the entire thing for a dress. But he doesn't really involve her in the finances either, because he wasn't saying that he had $400 extra or francs. And back then, this would have been a lot more money, considering inflation. So for this, we could say she can be characterized as dissatisfied with her life, not appreciative, ungrateful would be the opposite of not appreciative, or not appreciative would be ungrateful. And the husband is the opposite. He's appreciative. He could be seen as generous. And then she goes to her friend, who she's obviously very jealous of, because she doesn't ever really see her friend, because when she leaves, she's too miserable. So here's where the story starts to pick up, and she borrows the necklace. And then we get our symbol in the story. The necklace is certainly symbolism. So you could write about any of those points, how her behavior throughout the story is revealed for her character. Well, you could also say, when she loses the necklace, she is quick to want to replace it. She could have tried to maybe come up with some scheme. Actually, she doesn't find out the necklace is fake, but she could have actually went and bought a fake necklace to replace the one she lost. But she didn't do that, and neither did her husband, obviously. They didn't even discuss that option. So that shows she is an honest person that was willing to work back all of her debt and help her husband work out the debt when it came to the losing all their fortune. But then, in the end there, all right, so here when she comes to know the hard work of housework, you could sort of say that she wasn't very remorseful. Like, she still looks back on when she was the most beautiful one at the ball, which I might say, if this was the turning point of her life, losing the necklace pretty much ruined her and her husband's life for 10 years, right? And afterwards, now she's kind of in all this poor health and whatnot. So you could say, why does she remember it so fondly? That might not show that she learned an actual lesson here. And we don't even know how she feels at the end when she finds out the truth that this necklace was made of paste. It was a fake necklace. But you could say she is not very reflective in her actions throughout the story. So anything you want to say about her being selfish, careless when she runs out, easily embarrassed, because in the one part, the climax of the story is when she loses a necklace. And the reason that she had rushed out of the ball was because her coat, she felt like it was shabby compared to everyone else's fur coats. So this is when her husband had told her she did not listen to him and rapidly descended the staircase. We do know that the necklace was fake, so that maybe is why it broke so easily, but she was rushing out. So you could say something about her envy, jealousy, and carelessness, which is brought anxiety in concern of her social class. She is very anxious that people are going to see her as her actual social class. Ashamed, you could say. And then the symbolism of the necklace. What does a necklace symbolize? How does its meaning shift? Well, at first it represents wealth, beauty, belonging, status. And then it symbolizes her despair and her fall into poverty. So you could say the necklace symbolized her economic demise, her and her husband's financial demise, because we also found out that her husband was decently well off. He had this whole inheritance that he had to use for this, so he did borrow, because he's going to say he has his 18,000 francs left to him by his father. Then he had to take out a bunch of ruinous loans. So at this point, the necklace could symbolize the danger of living beyond your means. Even though she was just renting or borrowing the necklace, she ended up having to pay it back. So the necklace in the beginning represents the facade of wealth and beauty, belonging, however you want, the wealth of jumping your social circle. And then when the necklace is lost, it's going to represent the dangers of faking your net worth. Or you really can word any of these symbols, because then in the end, when she finds out the necklace is fake, that also symbolizes that her friend that she was always envious of had fake jewelry on her. So you could say by the end we learn that even wealthy people are lying about their wealth and the luxurious goods they own. So that could be, in the end, the necklace symbolized the facade of wanting things in life that you don't have. Get our irony. The situational irony occurs when the outcome is the opposite of what was intended or expected. Dramatic irony occurs when the reader understands something the character is not. Which type of irony is most powerful at this story? How does Maupassant set it up from the very first page? Consider the final revelation. What does the reader understand the moment Matilda has never understood? Well, the reader understands that wishing things and pretending to be someone you're not can lead to bad consequences, or pretending you're someone you're not can lead to becoming someone you would be even worse off to become in her case here. So this we could say is a situational irony, because we are surprised in the end when we found out that they took out all that money to buy a real diamond necklace when it wasn't even a real diamond necklace to begin with. And you could say that this dramatic irony could start when they start to look for the necklace and they're going to rebuy it again. And then they go and the jeweler says to them that he only supplied the case. That is ironic, because why would someone have a jewelry case he's saying he consulted the memories when he goes, I must have only merely supplied the clasp. So if the box, they go to this jeweler, because that's the name on the box, and then he consults his books and it's showing he never sold that necklace, that you could start to say was foreshadowing that the necklace is fake, because why wouldn't he have a record of selling the necklace? So you could say that is ironic, and it leads to our final twist at the end that the necklace was fake. Also say the irony that in the beginning, she really was not that bad off financially. They had the housekeeper, they had a nice place, because in the end they end up living in this attic apartment. That's what a garret would be. So you could say the irony that she didn't appreciate her middle class life, and then it was taken away from her when she pretended to be someone in a class above her. And then she ended up in a class even lower than what she started in. So you could say that is most definitely one of their irony for that. And then, because there could be, you could say there's different type. Well, the irony, we didn't know, though, that it was a fake necklace. So either that her situation she created a worse situation for herself than she had in the beginning, or you could also say the irony that her friend's necklace was fake. You could talk about both of them too, but those are both two different examples. And you have a motif is a recurring image idea situation. In the necklace, a gap between how things appear and what they truly are runs through almost every scene. Matilda's sense of self, her borrowed dress and necklace, life she and her husband sacrificed 10 years to, and of course the necklace itself. Where do you see this motif appear at least twice in the story? What does its repetition tell us about what Maupassant believes about human nature? For appearance versus reality, you could definitely use a scene as evidence here of when she is at the ball and she is saying how she was the absolute darling of the ball and everyone was dancing and impressed with her. We have the cost of the suitable dress. So when she's at the ball, she appears very, very fancy and of an upper class member of society. But when she's leaving the ball, she panics because the reality is everything is borrowed. Well, the diamonds is borrowed. When she comes home, here's her at the ball where she's going to say her husband had been dozing. He threw over her shoulders. She danced madly, ecstatically, drunk with pleasure, with no thought for anything, in the triumph of her beauty, in the pride of her success, in a cloud of happiness made up of universal homage and admiration. So, really, this is all fake, because, they used all the money to buy the dress. The necklace is fake. She's going to end up losing it. So, how she appears to others versus her reality. And then she sees it here, kind of like a Cinderella situation. So that's one example of reality appearance. And also then when she gives the necklace back to her friend didn't even look at it. Madame Forrester. It's just like, oh, okay, the necklace is back. So it appears like her and her husband just returned the necklace, no problem. But in reality, they really have to move out of their apartment, take out a bunch of loans, and work themselves to near death. And now she's looking, now this is her reality. So when she finally shows her face to her friend, her reality is the complete opposite of what she would have ever wanted. And that would be two examples of our motif, reality versus appearance. For this one, we have the necklace symbolizes the dangerous power of false appearances, revealing Maupassant's belief that human desire for status often leads to people to ruin their own lives through pride and poor choices. That could definitely be our Matilda here. Borrowing the necklace, not saying anything. You could say that was the husband's pride to not want to say anything that it was lost. He kind of plays a role in that too. We don't know if Matilda would have been, because if they would have just been honest and went and told Madame Forrester that they lost the necklace, they would have saved 10 years of financial hardship. Matilda Louise borrows, so here's our little bit of our summary there, borrows what she believes is a priceless diamond necklace. Feeling ecstatic, she admires herself in the mirror, convinced it elevates her to the glamorous life she craves. This sparkling but ultimately fake pasta necklace leads her and her husband to 10 years of crushing debt and hardship to replace it. The symbol shows how chasing the illusion of higher social class blinds people to reality, trading a comfortable middle-class life for pointless misery because vanity prevents honest acceptance of one's true position. Which is a bit of a... Well, I guess in her case, she was just pretending. But you could say if she really wanted wealth, she could have went out and worked for it. But we would want to keep in mind the context of the setting where women weren't really allowed to have career paths. And well, there weren't a lot of career paths open. So in the case of Matilda, the fake reality of borrowing this necklace was going to be the only way that she could have appeared of a truer or of a higher social class. And that was the most important thing to her, which definitely led to pointless misery for sure. So in this, we introduced the story, the author, and what the central idea was. Then we gave the briefest summary of our story. Then we said what the symbol is. We introduced our necklace and how it was a symbol. So that's how the symbolism of the necklace develops the central idea that chasing a higher social class can blind your reality, and it would end up trading a middle-class life to a pointless misery. And this happens even to people in this day, you could say, with people that take out a lot of debt to do things or go places they can't afford to take pictures there. So this definitely is a timeless story of all the human elements: desire, jealousy, envy, faking things, anything you want to, falsifying appearances, any of those themes you could say in Guy de Maupassant's The Necklace.